What's up, everyone? Just had a random thought. I'm trying to get into more spontaneous video creation at the moment, and one occurred to me today, which is probably the bane of my existence as a coach, and that is when somebody says, "I can't afford it." Um, Anybody who's a coach understands or actually anybody that sells a service, a valuable service, understands that this particular resistance is just the most frustrating part of the job. And the reason for that is because it is pretty much always a lie. The person isn't necessarily a liar, but they are lying nonetheless. And that's why it's so frustrating, because it's a lie that doesn't serve anybody. It's a lie where everybody loses. Now, I'll put it out. Sometimes, well, I'll offer coaching to someone after I've served them, and they say that they can't afford it or that it's too much for them, and as a polite way of saying I don't want to. And I actually don't have a problem with that. They're basically saying I don't believe you're that valuable. And if that's the case, then fine. I mean, you could be more direct and courageous about it, and the fact that you're not direct and courageous about it tells me you do need coaching. But nonetheless, you obviously don't like the cut of my jib or my flavor or my style, and that's fine. I don't want to work with someone who doesn't appreciate or feel that what I do is valuable. It just wouldn't make sense. That's not the one I have a problem with, because that's actually incredibly rare. Most people who don't want to work with me will just say that they don't want to work with me, or they'll put me off in some other very obvious way. Most people say I can't afford it. Well, they also say other things. They say I need to check with my partner first. That's always a no. Can I think about it? Nobody thinks about it and comes back as a yes, or very few people. Or I need to wait, I need to wait until I get this new job. I need to wait until I finish my house payments. I need to wait until this thing with the other thing with the thing. These are the common ways that I can't afford it manifests as another kind of delay tactic, like, oh, I just got to think about it. But they never come back and actually say yes. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this isn't just about coaching. This isn't the only place that this happens. It happens anywhere where you're afraid to invest in yourself. Because that's what it really means. I've had people who are dirt broke find a way to pay for my coaching. I've had people empty their life savings to pay for my coaching, or to pay for coaching with other people. I've had people, myself included, put themselves in really tough financial positions to afford their self-development support. It can be done by almost anyone, especially when you're working with someone like me who does payment plans and everything. There's really no budgeting excuse. I have students who do coaching with me. So the idea that you can't afford it is pretty much always a lie, unless you're living in a ditch. What you're really saying is one of two things. Either I'm afraid to invest in myself. I'm scared that there's no return of investment, me paying for something that's just for me. Or you're saying, I think free is valuable. I think if to pay for something is always a kind of a waste, and to get it for free is good. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I just know it's really frustrating because I see people spend their money elsewhere. I see them buy alcohol and drugs for the same amount of price as coaching overall. I see them buy tons of computer games and apps. I see them go to fancy restaurants and buy coffee every day. I see them buy clothes and shoes that they don't need. And on and on. I see this frivolous spending all the time from people, usually from quite insecure people who would really benefit from coaching. And in fact, all that spending is an example of their insecurities. When I was first starting as a coach, I was talking to my dad about it, and I said, man, I just feel really like kind of embarrassed charging this much money just to have a conversation with me. And my dad asked, well, back when you used to drink and party, how much would you spend on a weekend on alcohol and whatever else, club entry and clothes and taxis and everything? And I said, well, yeah, I'd spend way more than the cost of a single coaching session each weekend. He said, well, which one's more valuable, those weekends out or a coaching session? And that's when it clicked for me. And that's when I dropped my shame about how much I charge for coaching. I realized for what you're paying, you're getting so much more value than what you'd usually spend that money on. Your life is going to be so much better. In fact, you will literally make more money in the future because of the boosted confidence. So you're actually investing. This isn't a cost. You're treating yourself as an asset, and rather than spending money on liabilities, so on. So financially, if you find a coach who's a good fit for you, not all coaches, but a coach who's a good fit for you and who helps you make breakthroughs, there's really almost nothing more valuable than that because of the long-term rewards. You're essentially training yourself to be more profitable in every possible way, not just financially, but emotionally, confidence-wise, socially, everything is going to go up from there on out and continue to go up. It's just this escalating curve of improvement for most people. And yet people go, no, I can't afford that. And then the very next day, they'll buy a latte for $7. And nobody needs a latte. A latte doesn't improve your quality of life. If you cut every latte for a year, you'd have your coaching package paid for, and you wouldn't miss the lattes. Alarm, excuse me. So why is it that people do this? I don't have a problem with someone saying, I'm too afraid to invest in myself, and for that to be the reason that we don't work together. If that's the case, so be it. I mean, I don't coach people from scratch. I coach them when they're already at the point where they're ready to take a risk on themselves. The work that gets them up to that point is actually work that they have to do without me. I'm not like somebody who teaches someone how to swim. I'm someone who takes someone who already knows how to swim, makes them a much better swimmer. So I guess the issue I have is that people lie to themselves. When you say, I can't afford it, you're lying to yourself, and that keeps you trapped in a loop. You'll always believe you can't afford whatever it is, that workshop, that book that would help you, that coach, that nutritious meal, that gym membership. It's like they say in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a wealthy person looks at things differently. And I don't just mean financially, but they'd say, how can I afford it? Not can I afford it or I can't afford it. Successful people in all areas of life, not just financially, but confident people or socially confident people, physically fit people, they understand investing in themselves. They understand that you trade value, that you pay for things that are good for you, right? And there is a return on investment. They understand that if you get something for free, it's probably crap. And I've found that that's just in all areas of life. If you get the cheap, discounted, easy option, you'll get the cheap, discounted service. There's a value equation here. Now, some people charge a lot for crap as well. I'm not saying this is a black and white situation, but I do see a lot of people when I tell them about how much my coaching costs, you see them kind of disappointed, like they're expecting it to be way less, like 10% of that, without even realizing that even if I did charge way less, they still wouldn't pay, because then they would be disappointed and want it to be way less than that, because they're always looking for less. They want to hoard their resources, and that's actually a sign of confidence problems. If you're unwilling to release your resources to invest in yourself, those are signs of fear and anxiety, crippling insecurities. There are no high-performing freeloaders. Anybody who's in the coaching game who runs a community like I've got Brojo and so on, you'll see the people outside of that community, the ones that lurk on the outside and try to suck up as much of the free stuff as possible. And they're often quite, I get a lot of emails from them and lots of questions, but they never invest. They'll always stop short of actually paying for something, or even I did a little test recently where we did a $1 membership for Brojo, and it's amazing how many people said no to it. In particular, who said no to it? People that had watched every video and listened to every podcast would still say, no to $1. And that was just symbolic. That's a person who would never consider something unless it's free. Even if they've been receiving lots of value from it, they would prefer for it to remain free. And to me, these people will tell themselves that they're thrifty or that they're saving, or that, that they're being smart about it. What they're really doing is refusing to invest, refusing to understand a value trade. I'm not going anywhere in particular with this, but I do want to challenge and call out some people, not just people who said no to me for coaching. It's fine, right? I only want to work with people who are ready to invest in themselves anyway. So it's no skid off my nose. It's frustrating to see people lie to themselves, and it's frustrating from a place of love, because I used to do that. I used to be the freeloader, and I would, you know, not sign up to something that cost me a lot of money if it was only for me, and it was, the investment was based on my behavior. Like, I'd do workshops and training through my work if my work paid for it, but I wouldn't have gone and signed up to one of those things by myself. And it was only later that I realized it's because I'm scared that I won't make sure it's valuable, that I won't go do the work afterwards. You can see even the opposite. It amazes me that somebody will pay like $1 billion to go to a Tony Robbins event, and then the very next week they haven't even changed their behavior. And I think that's what a lot of people are scared of doing, of, paying a lot of money for something only to realize that that something isn't going to really do shit for you. It's what you do about it. It's, do you take that learning and apply it? There are a lot of people who have this deep, dark belief like there's no point in investing myself. It's futile because I'm always going to lose. I'm always going to fail. And the problem is, it's that belief that guarantees it. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Every time you say no to investing in yourself, you're saying no to investing in yourself. You got to understand the significance of that. You're saying, I'm not worth it. And when you say that to yourself, there's no counter feedback. It's you and you talking. There's no one to intervene. So you won't see that you're digging the hole. The first time I signed up to coaching, it cost me $3,000 American. I've since spent 6 figures at least in coaching over the years. Most of the time when I couldn't afford to. And that first time I just saw my bank account just get emptied and go to some random dude across the other side of the world. And I just remember my face being really hot and being just really scared. But the significance of it wasn't lost on me. I'm like, this is the first time I've dropped a serious wad on cash as essentially a gamble, a bet on myself, that I'm going to make this work and I'm going to do something good with this. And that in itself was the development. This guy had already, I don't believe paying for coaching necessarily guarantees that it will develop you, but this guy hadn't even really done any coaching with me yet, and just paying him had done so much for me because of the significance of me choosing myself for once and saying, the best use of my money is my own development. Like I said, this isn't just about coaching. It could be signing up to hobbies and cooking classes. I saw this in the dance community. People would come along and do the cheap, sort of sessions, the cheap lessons. But when someone offered a big workshop or to join a performance team where you get the really advanced kind of training, people go, "No, I can't afford it." People who earned more than me, even though I was signed up to like 4 teams, they'll say, "No, I can't afford it." Like these IT guys who get paid like $1 million an hour, saying that they're too broke. And I was like, yeah, you can actually. You're choosing not to invest in yourself. And you're not being honest with yourself about that. And that's why your dancing is always going to be mediocre. And because your dancing will always be mediocre, you'll keep reaffirming the belief that it's not worth investing in. When in reality, you don't become a good dancer without thousands of hours of private lessons and performance teams and paying for workshops and traveling and so on, which all the great dancers have done. And there are no exceptions to that. Look, I'm just ranting, essentially. If I have a point to this, I want it to be this. Every time you say no to investing in yourself, you shy away from taking the non-free option, you're looking for the cheap deal, you tell yourself you can't afford something, I want you to reframe that lie for the truth, which is, I'm choosing not to invest in myself because I'm afraid, and therefore I'm choosing a life of being someone who doesn't believe in himself. Because believing in yourself isn't a thought, it's an action. It's an investment. That cheesy cliche of believing in yourself, if you want to know what that really means, it means that you take actions that invest in you. That's what believing in yourself actually looks like. You don't need to think it or feel it, you do it. Right? When you see somebody, I was just watching the World Games for athletics, somebody at the top of their field, they might have a lot of insecurities and doubts about themselves. The reason that they're at the top of the field is not because they believe in themselves in a cognitive or emotional way. It's because they've invested in coaching and thousands of hours of training and the best shoes for their running and whatever. They've taken the action of someone who believes in themselves. And that's what makes it true. The minute I really started believing in myself was when I finally paid for coaching. Actually, it's happened before that, but this was the biggest step that I'd taken up to that point. That's when I'm like, okay, well, that's what someone who believes in themselves would do. So now I am that guy. Doesn't matter what I think and feel. I might be full of self-doubt and a not good enough story, but I just did it. Not only did I invest my money, I've invested my hours and my efforts and my courage. I have to take all these actions that are scary. I'm choosing to do that. Choosing to sacrifice going out and getting on the piss with everybody every weekend. I'm choosing to sacrifice fancy lattes and mochachinos every, morning. I'm choosing to keep my same old clothes, even though they're looking a bit tatty, instead of buying fancy new shit. I'm choosing to keep my car rather than upgrade, because none of those things develop me. What really develops me is, working with a coach or a trainer or doing the education. I think I'm making this video because I'm going to send it to people who say that they can't afford, whether they're saying it to me or they're saying it to people I know in the coaching field, and just say, look, you don't have to do coaching. You don't have to invest in yourself, but just don't fucking lie to yourself about it, because then you're going to be trapped in the hole. You got to understand that when you say no, when you say, I can't afford it, what you're really saying is, I'm choosing not to be someone who believes in themselves. I'm making that true. I can make it the other way as well. I could invest and then I am someone who believes in themselves. But your behavior shows what your beliefs really are. So you're choosing it. So don't pretend that this is something to do with money, because I promise you it's not. I guarantee that whatever situation you're in, I know someone poorer who's got coaching. Okay? Guaranteed. Guaranteed. All right? I got people in like significant debt living on the bones of their ass who have signed up to coaching. All right? If you can afford a coffee once a week, you're already richer than clients I've had. Okay? So, hopefully that helps someone with something. It's just me getting something off my chest more than anything else. And feel free to post your thoughts and questions below. If you have any disagreements, air them out, that's fine. But prove me wrong. Tell me about a situation where you genuinely can't afford, and I'll see if I can find a counterexample that disproves it. And if I can't, you win. Okay? All right. Have yourselves a good week. I'll see you whenever I see you. Cheers.